Hello everyone, this is the Magic Master, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. This is episode 2. In this game we are playing as Ryunosuke Naruhodo, who I have listened to his name like 20 billion times now. I'm pretty sure I'm still saying it wrong, but I'm doing my best, I swear. Ryunosuke, and basically he has just been put on trial for murder, for killing an English professor, in Japan. That's basically where we're at. Let's keep going. Continue. Yes, please. This is the judge. Their name is just Judge, so their name is easy. State before the court the cause of death. The cause of death? Well, obviously, that was... Ryunosuke. Remember that in court, every assertion must be backed up by evidence. Did I read this already? Remember that in court, every assertion must be backed up by evidence. Sorry, I paused it to listen to Ryunosuke's name a bunch more times because I'm still scared I'm saying it wrong. By evidence? But how? Find the piece of evidence that shows the professor's cause of death and select present. Do it now. Post-mortem report. Death occurred a little after 2 p.m. and was caused by loss of blood from a gunshot to the chest. The bullet did not pass through the victim's body. Present.
Yes.
Well, according to this document, the victim suffered a hemorrhagic death due to gunshot trauma. Learn to read, you imbecile. That's the post-mortem report, I take it. Sorry, yes, that's right. The, post-mortem report. In the West, a doctor dissects corpses to identify the cause of death in an autopsy. But here in Japan, a police officer merely inspects the body and draws conclusions that way. Oh, I see. As long as I'm not going to be tested in any of this later. This is a so-called photographic print of the scene of the crime. You can clearly discern scorch marks around the bullet hole produced by the powder explosion. In other words, we should assume that the victim was shot at close range. Thank you, counsel. The court will accept this modern scientific evidence into the record. The photographic print of the victim has been entered into the court record. So that's a photographic print. Well, that's something I've never seen before. It's clearly superior to a drawing. The detail is incredible. Very well. I am satisfied with your answers. Let us start the trial. Certainly, Your Excellency. So, without further ado, in order to better apprise the court with the facts of the case, the prosecution hereby calls its first witness, who was there at the scene of the crime when it happened. This is it then. I think I may have worked out what the professor had in mind. The professor? You mean Dr. Mikotoba? Yes, clearly you're the defense lawyer today, not me. But that doesn't mean... Well, I can still act as your assistant. Oh, of course. When he was speaking with me before, he simply said, Kazuma Asogi must not be the defense lawyer in this trial. He really has been sticking his oar in, hasn't he? Maybe, but any help you can give me would be greatly appreciated. Well, my first piece of advice is rein in that crazy look of bewilderment and control the cold sweats. Only if you rein in that crazy headband and control the cold stares first. Smooth. Witness, state your name and occupation for the court, please. Of course. My name is... Satoru Hosonaga. I'm so sorry. I really am so sorry. I can't do names. I am the head waiter at a Western-style restaurant called Le Carnival. Are you alright? You seem to be coughing up some air. It's a regular occurrence. It really doesn't bother me. Well, it really, really should. As everyone knows, the capital's southeastern quarter was developed for foreign visitors some years ago. It's become a very fashionable district now, full of hotels to accommodate overseas guests. This grim crime occurred in one of the district's so-called restaurants, an Occidental eatery, 3 days ago. Understood. Hosonaga-san, you will kindly tell this court everything you can about the incident. At once, sir. That was not the voice I did for them 2 seconds ago. And no petty interjections from the aspiring lawyer boy, please. Oh, perspiring maybe, but aspiring? It was just after 2 p.m. on the day in question. We have few diners at that time of day. The lunchtime rush was over, and there were only 3 tables still occupied. That fits in with my memory of it too. There was hardly anyone else in the place. It was when I was in the kitchen, putting away crockery and cutlery. A gunshot rang out, so I hurried to the dining center to see what had happened. I found the victim, an English gentleman, slumped in his chair, and standing immediately beside him, gun in hand, was the accused university student. Hold on, let me just clarify something here. While I did pick up a gun that I found lying on the floor beside the professor, I didn't shoot him. Objection! I believe I asked you to refrain from petty interjections. The court wishes to listen to the witness's report of what he saw, you amateur. But the next time you interrupt at an inappropriate time, you will be penalized, Defendant Naruhodo. Don't worry, Ryunosuke. You'll have your chance to fight back. For now, we must just quietly listen to the witness. Ugh. If I may confirm one point, waiter. Standing beside the victim with a gun in his hand was the same man we see here in court today? Yes, without question. I see. And apart from the accused, was there anyone else standing beside the victim? No. There was no one else around that table but the deceased Englishman and the university student. Sorry, I forgot I was supposed to be doing a voice. I know the voices are not very voicey, but there's something. Huh? Wait, what did he just say? There was no one else around that table? What's the matter, Ryunosuke? That's just not true. When I went over to Dr. Wilson to say hello, there was a woman sitting opposite him at his table. Really? And that's not something the waiter could have missed. I've been warned about interjecting, but still, what should I do? Yes, you should interject. Yes! Just a moment, please. Dr. Wilson wasn't alone that day. I'm sure of it. There was a lady sitting with him at the same table. Dear me. What are we gonna do with you? I forgot to yell objection, whoopsie. With your blatant disregard for court proceedings, I'm beginning to wonder if you're not a fraud. Could it be that the accused, this mere student, is not a real lawyer after all? But I'm sure of what I saw. Hosonaga-san, is there any chance you're mistaken? Perhaps your memory of events is hazy. No. The deceased gentleman came to dine alone. I don't believe it. I actually have a rough plan of the restaurant as it was that day. Please, have a look if you'd like to. Let me see. Ah, a sketch of the establishment's layout drawn by yourself, I presume. That's right. I'm afraid I used the back of my business card. It was a turbulent situation. However, as you can see, the gentleman in question was seated alone. Well, you're clearly a very conscientious waiter. Thank you, sir. The court will take this plan and add it to the court record as evidence. Oh, well, is there a problem? Hand the plan to the court officer at once! Of course. Here you are. What was that about? He's been completely calm and collected until now. Something certainly seems to have shaken him. The waiter's business card has been entered into the court record. So, the court has now heard a precis of the case. Yes, at the moment the gunshot was heard in the restaurant, the only person in close proximity to the victim was the defendant on trial today. It would seem we are looking at a black and white case here. Defendant Naruhodo. Yes, Your Excellency? If you admit your guilt at this stage, the court is willing to look mercifully upon you. In other words, you may have some small reprieve in terms of your inevitable punishment. I called this waiter as an unsworn witness in order to explain the details of the case to the court. But I must warn the defense, if you are determined to pursue matters further in this trial. The prosecution has decisive evidence from sworn witnesses who were present at the scene of the crime. What should I do, Kazuma? What do you mean? Well, I'm gonna be found guilty one way or another, it seems. Wouldn't it be sensible to plead guilty at this stage and hope for a more lenient sentence? Everyone keeps telling me that this trial is unusual, about these peculiarities. You said it, Professor Mikitoba said it, and so is the judge and the prosecution. I'm scared of what lies ahead if I push this. As I said from the outset, I believe you're innocent. I trust you. And yet, despite knowing that, you're willing now to throw that trust back in my face? Is that it? What? If the accused is in fact innocent, then a defense lawyer is duty-bound to prove that innocence by whatever means necessary. Are you just going to abandon that duty? Are you going to give up on yourself? The battle hasn't even begun yet, Rinosuke. The defense pleads not guilty, Your Excellency. We invite the prosecution to stop making empty threats and bring out its witnesses. Then we'll see just how decisive this evidence really is. Indeed. Prosecutor Ouchi, please continue with proceedings. That cannot be how you say that either, I'm so sorry. Oh, actually, Ouchi? I bet that is how you say that. Or at least how we're meant to read it here, even if it's not how you say it, because in the other game he's called Pain. Okay. Tisk. Well, you were warned. The young can be so reckless. You know, many call me a saint, but I can be a devil when I want to be. Ugh. In a few short moments from now, that dumbstruck young mouth of yours will be silenced. Forever! The prosecution calls its next witness. Very well. Officer, bring forth the witness at once. Witnesses, kindly state your names and occupations for the court. Yes, sir. The Great Nippon Imperial Army Sergeant Ayase Nosa reporting for duty, sir. Myself? I find employ as a purveyor of fine articles of antiquity from the that's not them, that's me not being able to pronounce that if that wasn't clear. Efflorescence of our nation, Nippon, and conduct my trade from Rasuti, Tai, a humble premises in the 2nd District. Curio Korikuda, at your service. I'm sorry, names. I'm sorry. An antique dealer and a soldier. What an unusual pairing. Both of these gentlemen were present at the restaurant in the day in question. They must be the diners at the other table the waiter mentioned. Myself, I habitually take tea of the most exquisite aroma at the establishment in question, always past noon. And, not infrequently, converse with interested parties regarding the curious with which I make my business. I can't understand a word that old man is saying. He's an antique dealer, and it sounds like he's a regular at the Carnival. He seeks out potential customers who may have an interest in antiques and tries to sell his wares to him. He obviously targets the Carnival because it's a high-class restaurant with rich clientele. Right, I see. Although, to be honest, that sergeant looks more like he'd be a seller rather than a buyer. Now, you both witnessed the precise moment of the most atrocious incident. Is that correct? Affirmative! The enemy unit was seen attacking the foreigner in what can only be described as an act of war, sir! It was that black uniformed rogue infantryman over there who unloaded his firearms, sir! This man's as impossible to understand as the other. But I'm almost sure I heard a strange noise during that last thing he said. So, this is the decisive evidence the prosecution was threatening. The soldier is claiming that he actually saw the precise moment you shot the victim dead. Yeah. Well, are you starting to feel uncomfortable? If I'm honest, I was feeling uncomfortable from the start. Now, the court will hear from your formal testimony, please. You will state everything you saw at the precise moment the incident occurred. Sir, yes, sir. Standing by, ready to report, sir. Unsavory memories of a most acrobatic afternoon. Witness testimony. Our first witness testimony of the game. Come on. What the witnesses saw. And also, the first time I've ever had two witnesses on a stand. I don't know if the other games ever do that, because I've not finished them yet. But I've never had this happen before. I was investigating a regulation beefsteak at the restaurant while having a tactical discussion with the old man. Myself? I was extolling the virtues of a particularly fine golden curio to the military gentleman. At that precise moment, a firearm was discharged. I observed the enemy's actions with my own eyes. The black uniformed varsity cadet fired on the English civilian, and from the back, the cowardly little weasel. I was on my hands and knees, investigating the whereabouts of my mysteriously absconded precious curio. Well, so you, Sergeant Nosa, actually witnessed the vital moment. You saw the split second when the defendant fired the weapon at the victim. Yes, sir. Affirmative, sir. That wicked university cadet, sir. That cruel and unforgivable enemy, sir. Why does he have a knife? What times we live in, when an English gentleman may be assailed in the broad light of day. But this is ridiculous. I didn't shoot anyone. Is that really true, Rinosuke? Yes! All I did was pick up the gun that I saw lying on the floor. After I'd said hello to Dr. Wilson, I went back to my table and sat drinking some coffee. Then, when I'd finished, I got up from my seat to leave the restaurant, when I noticed an English-made gun next to the chair where the professor was sitting. I thought perhaps the professor had dropped it, so I bent down, and just as I was picking it up, bang! Well, if that's the truth, there was obviously a criminal on the scene somewhere. And somewhere in these two witnesses' testimonies, there's a clue as to who that criminal was. There is? Rinosuke, you must exercise your right to cross-examine the witnesses. Cross-examine? Do it now! As we have heard, Your Excellency, there is no room for doubt in the testimony of these witnesses. The defendant is clearly guilty. It is time to bring this despicable student to justice. Certainly, the testimony the court has just heard eliminates any vestige of doubt. Therefore, it is my grave duty to declare the guilty of this trial. Yes! What in the name of the Emperor is the meaning of this outburst? I mean, the defense demands its right to a cross-examination. Please? Dear me, dear me. Let me guess. The Hachimaki headband boy next door told me to do it. How pathetic. Huh? How did he know? The prosecution objects. This is a clear waste of time. The defendant obviously has no experience. How can he possibly carry out a cross-examination? Objection! The defense is asserting its right to a cross-examination. Whether or not you think he's capable of it, it is irrelevant. Kazuma is so commanding. Very well. Let the defense conduct the cross-examination of the witnesses. Alright, this is where the battle really begins, Rinosuke. But I don't even know what I have to do in a cross-examination. Isn't it obvious? You have to expose the lies in the witnesses' statements. How? You didn't fire the gun, which means that what the soldier said has to be a lie. Well, yeah, but it's just a case of proving it, and the key to doing that is evidence. Right, evidence. All you need to do is present some decisive and indisputable evidence that proves the witness is lying. Now let's go, Rinosuke! Don't let them beat you! Alright then, it's all or nothing. And that's where we're gonna stop for the day. So next time we will do the first cross-examination. But that is all the time we have in this video. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoy hearing me read a novel, basically, and butcher a whole load of names. I'm so sorry. Yeah, that is all the time we have today. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, Team Challenge.